Good morning and welcome to Daily Devotions with Pastor Joe. We're looking at Matthew 5:38 through 48 this morning, where it talks about, where Jesus talks about retaliation, the laws of retaliation, eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, and loving your enemies, not just your friends. So we've been talking quite a bit through the book of Matthew, chapter 5 of the book of Matthew, Sermon on the Mount here, where Jesus talks to us about the Beatitudes, talking to us about the attitudes we ought to have in our lives, the way we ought to respond and react to different circumstances in life, the importance of witnessing, being salt and light to the world, that Jesus came not to destroy the law, but to correct a lot of the misunderstandings we had about it, that we need to live right in our attitude life, our thought life. We need to understand that marriage is meant to be a lifetime commitment, that we are also to use our words carefully. So our attitudes, our thoughts, our words, not just our actions. You see, the Pharisee used to teach, and the other religious leaders used to teach, that there were caveats and exceptions to the laws under certain circumstances that Jesus said just was not so. And so here, he's taking a law that was in place, that was intended to be a part of the civil law just to keep civil order, and he's going to correct our thinking about how we ought to consider this. And now, taking into account the fact that he's not taking away the law, and that he's just trying to improve upon it, let's consider what he has to say here and figure out where he's going with it. So Matthew 5:38, ye have heard that it hath been said, an eye for an eye, and a tooth for a tooth. But I say unto you, that ye resist not evil, but whosoever shall smite thee on thy right cheek, turn to him the other also. And if any man will sue thee at the law, and take away thy coat, let him have thy cloke also. And whosoever shall compel thee to go a mile, go with him twain. Give to him that asketh thee, and from him that would borrow of thee, turn not thou away. And perhaps this verse 39 is the most interesting of the four verses that we have here. Let's pull up Adam Clarke's resist not evil or the evil person. So I'm fully persuaded, he says, ought to be translated. Our Lord's meaning is, do not repel one outrage by another. He that does so makes him precisely what the other is, a wicked person. That makes some good sense here. People would understand, the way that they taught back then, they would understand this law to mean that if somebody was mean, rude, or cruel to you, you had every right to be mean, rude, and cruel to them. If you had an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, means that if you got in a fight with somebody and they knocked out your eye, the legal system would literally knock out their eye as sort of a repayment for the incident. If somebody had broken your tooth, they would break their tooth as sort of a payment for the incident. So Adam Clarke says that is, turn to him the other cheek. That is, rather than avenge thyself, be ready to suffer patiently a repetition of the same injury. But these exhortations belong to those principally who are persecuted for righteousness' sake. Let such leave the judgment of their cause to him for whose sake they suffer. The Jews always thought that every outrage should be resented, and thus the spirit of hatred and strife was fostered. And we know that Jesus is teaching very strongly against hatred of other people in our lives in the passage of the Sermon on the Mount. So we know for a fact that he's telling us that rather than hate, rather than get revenge or be cruel to somebody just because they were cruel to you, find forgiveness whenever possible. Now, that doesn't mean that during a time where you're in a fight, somebody's attacked you, that you cannot defend yourself, you should just go limp and let them do whatever they want, because this law was the law indicating after something like that had already happened, if there was any damages done, you would be repaid by them getting hurt in exchange. So rather than going against them and trying to get revenge, and I think that's really what Jesus is aiming for here He's saying that if there's any cause for revenge, don't go and try to get revenge. It would indicate that he's saying perhaps that if somebody sues you at law and takes away your coat and does it unjustly, I believe is what he's intending there, then let him have your cloak also. Don't get upset and go and try to sue him again to get your coat back. It's not worth all of the trouble, the stress, the strife. And like Adam Clark had said, it's very intentionally aiming towards those who are righteous, those who are Christians, who are serving Christ, that we should follow this intently. This is no longer aiming towards a civil law, because Jesus is not in any way intending to set up an earthly kingdom that would any longer have a civil law and a civil code over top of the people. Although this should be the law, right? We should have laws that coincide with biblical truths and good moral values, but that's not what he's aiming for with this. So whoever compels you to go a mile, go with him twain. If you have a friend who's in desperate need of a traveling companion, be willing to go the extra mile. You understand, we've heard this over and over again. Go the extra mile to help somebody in need. Give to him that asketh, and from him that would borrow of thee, turn not thou away. If somebody's in need, and they're really in need, don't turn them away. Now, there's a lot of people who are not in any sort of a way in need, and they're just trying to rip you off, take advantage of you, and take all your things. That's not going to be something you can do in the long run. You've got to be careful to discern about that. When you have certain people in your life that will be just that kind of person who's constantly borrowing from you and never returning, they're not somebody that you want to keep giving to. You want to help when you can, and don't turn them away. If you have it within your grasp to help your neighbor, give them the help they need. Even if they're an enemy of yours, give them help that they need. I heard an illustration just recently, and it was talking about somebody. Oh, it was good ways back in time, Revolutionary War time, that had went and traveled many miles on foot to ask for his friend's life, or for this man's life to be spared, that he was going to be put to death, and he was told, no, I'm not going to do that. You're not going to get your friend's life, even though you've traveled this far. And the guy said, oh no, he's not my friend. He's my bitterest of enemies. And he said, oh, well, in that case, if you're willing to travel for a bitter enemy, I'll give you his life. And so he gave him to him, and they ended up becoming great friends. But that's the idea. Go the extra mile. Help those who are in need, even when they're your enemy. You don't know how much you're going to be their salvation, their way to learn of salvation and find it. But I say unto you, you've heard that it hath been said, thou shalt love thy neighbor and hate thine enemy. That's what the Pharisees taught, although the Bible just specifically said to love your neighbor. But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you. Do we have this kind of a reaction and a response for those around us who hate us and who are our enemies? Are we praying for those on the opposite side of the political spectrum? Are we praying for those who have done us wrong and treated us wrong, or are we upset and wishing evil upon them? If we're wishing evil upon them, we're in the wrong place in our heart, and we need to make amends with God about it and change our ways. If we're praying for them, we're in the right place, but not praying for harm to come their way, but praying for their good, and for, especially more than anything else, their souls. That ye may be the children of your Father which is in heaven. For he maketh his sun to rise on the evil and on the good, and sendeth rain on the just and on the unjust. You may be the children of your Father which is in heaven. Blessed are the peacemakers. They shall be called the children of God. Be the peacemaker. Going right back to that beatitude, be the peacemaker in every circumstance. He maketh his sun to rise on the evil and on the good, and sendeth rain on the just and the unjust. We had a discussion about this in college. One of our professors asked what we thought of that. Does God send bad things into your life? Was the question. And ultimately, we came to this conclusion. He sends the sun, the blessing of the sun on the good and the evil. It doesn't matter whether you're a good person or a bad person, God's going to allow the sun to rise on everybody. And he's going to send rain on the good and the evil. And really, it's up to you to determine whether you think that's good or evil. The rain in and of itself is a good thing, but it can also be looked upon as a not good thing in the time that it's happening. So the rain comes pouring down, the fields get muddy, we can't get the work done that we want to get done, but then the crops grow. And so while they may seem to be short-term hindrances and troubles and trials in our life, they ultimately are meant for our good. And ultimately for the bad people, the evil people in this world, the sinners, it's meant for their good as well. And then Jesus continues, "For if ye love them which love you, what reward have ye? Do not even the publicans the same?" Or in other words, the sinners are going to love the people who love them. They're going to love their kind. What good is it for you to just love your own people and nobody else? And he says, "If you salute your brethren only, what do ye more than others? Do not even the publicans so?" Same thing. You hail them, "Hello, it's good to see you." Only those who are close to you, only those who are like you. What good is it? What good are you doing for the world? We could almost hearken this back to being salt and light. What good are you in this world if you're not trying at all to make a positive impact on the bad people, the sinners of this world? "Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father which is in heaven is perfect." And that means perfect in love. Perfect in the respect of these things he's just said. Perfectly love your neighbor as if, even your enemies, as if they were your closest friends. Give them the love, show them the love that you have to give. And so look at what Jesus had to say. Stop hurting each other. Stop wanting to get revenge. Stop trying to get your way and to find comfort in this life. Instead, be willing to go the extra mile. Be willing to help those who can't repay you. Be willing to forgive, forget, and let go of things that have hurt you. Love not only your neighbor, don't hate your enemies, instead love your enemies, bless them, do good to them, pray for them. God doesn't differentiate where he bestows his earthly blessings. You shouldn't either. If you love them only, it's no reward. If you salute them only, it's no reward. Love and salute and care for the sinners as well as you do your fellow saints. So, what do you have to say about this passage? Do you have any ideas, thoughts, comments, concerns, questions, or a testimony to give today? Drop it down in the comment section below. Leave this video a like, a comment, subscribe to the channel, share this video with your friends. The more you like and comment, the more this video goes out to different people, the more it's going to be recommended to people who are not subscribed to the channel already. You can help make this channel grow with just a like and a comment down below. So, take your time to do that if you would, and I hope you have a wonderful day in the Lord. God bless. See you tomorrow on another Daily Devotions with Pastor Joe.